case?
Yes, we had at that point assessed Gabby and Matthew. We had had histories from the Department of Human Services, the reports, and we had talked to her aunt, so we had a variety of information about the facts of the case.
Did you ever have an opportunity, or were you given the opportunity to listen to the kids speak talks with regard to Matthew and Gabrielle?
You mean the forensic interviews?
Correct.
No, I mean we did not see those. No.
Okay. Now, in terms of your discussions with Ms. Blair, the one thing I take from this is that you and was it on page, I believe, 2 of your report, where you took from it that she was credible.
Credible in regards to?
In the statements that she made to you.
What I found with her statements were they were very consistent with Gabby's statements, and obviously the two of them had not talked since the arrest.
Okay.
And so I found her statements credible because of that consistent, and I did not hear her at that point. I heard her talk about the welfare of Gabby and Maddie in a very credible way, that those were very much concerned for her.
And from the tenor of your report, is it fair to say she did not minimize her actions with regard to Stephen and Stoney or Gabrielle and Matthew?
I thought she was remarkably honest, and I think it really helped to understand Gabby and Maddie in terms of her honesty. At one point I asked her if Gabby or Matthew had witnessed the deaths of the 2 kids, and she explained that they had witnessed one of them, and that was very important to their, meaning Gabby and Maddie's healing. And so I thought that she was remarkably honest and in helping in terms of the therapeutic process for the children.
And also in your report, you asked about the impact of the abuse, and I'm reading right now from page 2 of her report at the bottom, the impact of Gabby on the abuse and death of her siblings, and Ms. Blair responded, it's not good, right?
Correct.
Now, in terms of, I asked all of that to actually get to her statements with regard to Mr. Berry and Mr. Dorsey.
Yes.
Did you believe her credible when she relayed to you the lack of a relationship with each father and their children?
Yes.
Now, when, if we could focus just on Maddie for a moment. When you spoke with Maddie, and I am looking at where he's discussing with you the history, and basically he just says that something happened to me and my mother killed him, in terms of discussing his brother and sister Stoney and Stephen.
Yes.
Did he elaborate on what happened?
No.
Is that significant that at this point he hasn't spoken about that, and how it's 2 questions. Is it significant, and how is that going to impact his long-term healing?
2 things. One is that it is essential that he create his narrative about all that happened. And that, what we know is when kids connect the event with their feeling, that's what the therapeutic process is in trauma recovery, then it helps to mitigate the impact of fight, flight, and freeze. And so that is essential that he communicate eventually when he's safe and has that security to do that. So absolutely very important.
So that is something that you're looking for ongoing therapy
Right.
to help him
Yes.
make that connection and then reduce the flight or flight.
Yes, absolutely.
And in terms of you labeled it a chronic,
Complex trauma?
yes.
Yes.
How long, can you anticipate how long Matthew is going to need therapy?
I would say that periodically he will need it throughout his childhood. So he has therapy now, and they'll reach a point developmentally that he can't go any further. But then he'll hit puberty, and he likely might need to go back for a while. Developmentally, there are certain things that come that then produce a greater need to process what happened. So there are different layers of this.
So if I can put that in my words, this is something he is going to need all through his childhood.
To some degree, yes.
And possibly on past 18 into his adulthood.
Yes.
As he reaches different milestones in his
Yes.
life.
Yes.
And tangential, is that the same for Gabrielle?
Yes.
Where is she, if I can call that a spectrum, where is she on that spectrum? If you can talk to me?
So one of the, and I'll just say this, amazing things about Gabrielle is that her ability to live through and to have this resiliency, to want to be successful in school, to want to care about other people, to manage her behavior despite all that's happened to her, is in my work with thousands of kids who've been traumatized. That ability demonstrates her great potential for success. And so just by the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, that she is no longer reading continuously is one sign of safety. Her excitement over having two friends is another great move forward. The developmental process of transitioning her care of her brother to, at this point, her aunt is really, really important as well. So her trajectory is positive. She's going to need this support because underneath she has this anger that she's not been able to produce, even though she defines it, because it hasn't been safe enough. So I'm hoping that as she recovers, some of that anger will start to come out as a normal process.
Let me go back to something that you said. Maddie and Gabrielle are very intertwined, and their progress is inextricably intertwined.
Yes.
Right? Everyone has been going it from the other end. What happens to Gabrielle's progress if the stability of Matthew is not secure with her aunt and uncle?
It would overwhelm her. She spent her whole life trying to protect his life, trying to keep him in survival, survive physically and emotionally. That would overwhelm her, and she would significantly regress.
Would or could she see this as some type of failure on her part?
Absolutely. As I said earlier, the death of her two siblings, she takes responsibility for. She takes responsibility for Maddie's future. And so, and this is a part of what trauma does. When kids can't explain and understand what's happening, they take responsibility for horrible things that happen.
So we're looking at her as by being 18 just 4 days ago, that makes her an adult capable of all of the processing all the emotions that a normal adult has. Is Gabby a normal adult? adult.
No, she's not a normal child. She's an amazing child who's experienced things that have now put her in a position of potentially being successful. But she needs that ongoing support and that ongoing intensive availability of people that care about her, that are going to be there, predictable, and that are consistent. And that is the formula that will, I think, move her to a place where she can be successful and will be successful.
Now, you used a combination of words throughout of secure, supportive, and stable.
Yes.
That's the type of environment that both Matthew and Gabrielle need, correct?
Yes.
Now, in your evaluation, let's start with Mr. Dorsey. Will he be able to provide a secure, stable, and supportive environment?
No.
I asked the same thing about Mr. Berry.
No.
And why do you say that for each?
For two reasons. One is, in understanding what people are likely to do in the future, the past is the best predictor of that. And so when you look at the histories of Mr. Dorsey and Mr. Berry, neither one of them have had a life of consistency, of financial capability, of being able to be successful within society. And those are the predictors of the future. And if you add to that, for Mr. Berry, an extremely traumatized young boy who has significant needs, he's not been able to demonstrate that for himself. How is he going to now meet the needs of a child who demands that we respond to give him what he needs if he's going to be successful? And for Mr. Dorsey, it's a little bit of a different equation. He has not been able to do that either. But given Gabby's age and where she's at, it doesn't become as paramount. And she can decide that future with him as she chooses. But certainly Matthew cannot and needs the court to decide his future for him.
Would the security, stability, and support that Gabrielle and Matthew need be a quick process?
No, that's ongoing.
Okay.
And
would it be longer, if I can quantitate it, would it be longer than 12 months?
It will take the rest of Matthew's childhood, and it will take the rest of Gabby's life, in the sense of this will never go away, but she'll learn to manage this. But when she gets stressed and overwhelmed, if she has that stable, supportive, secure person to go to as a parent figure, it will be essential for her well-being.
Now, early in your testimony with regard to, I believe it was Mr. Berry, you made a comparison as to his saying that Matthew knew what he needed to do around him based upon his involvement with Matthew when he was 2 and 3 years of age.
Yes.
Okay. And that now he should carry forth that in terms of at the age that Matthew is right now.
Correct.
Would it be fair to say that that is limited thinking?
Absolutely, and it's inaccurate.
Would that, if you continued with that type of thinking, would that provide a supportive and secure, stable environment for Matthew into the future?
Absolutely not.
Did Mr. Berry seem cognizant that that belief system or attitude must change in order for his son to progress?
No.
Now, you also indicated that, I believe it was for Matthew, if you correct me if my notes were inaccurate, that the uncle in the Gordon household,
Yes.
is providing a stability that, I believe it was Matthew, has never had.
Yes.
Is that correct? And is that something that would be detrimental to him if it discontinued?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is the responsive, interactive, supportive, secure male adult that he's never had in his life.
Now, you indicated in your report, and this is about the final question, with regard to Ms. Blair, that any contact with Matthew and/or Gabrielle in the future should be only initiated by Gabrielle and Matthew?
That's correct.
Okay. Would not recommend any letters or cards from Ms. Blair?
At this point, I think it's very important that the contact be determined by the children, right? And I think at some point that may happen, especially with Gabby. One of the things that I think is important that talks some about her healing is that she indicated that she had good memories with her mother as well, all right? And that is this understanding that it's all not this, it's all not this. And I think that as time moves on, just like her relationship with Mr. Dorsey, that there'll be more of a need to ask questions, to make connections, but those should all be determined by Gabby, and they should be determined by whoever is the caregiver of Matthew. And because we would not want to overwhelm him, and I would see any letter at this point as overwhelming for him.
Okay. Would that the caregiver and any therapist that Matthew and/or Gabby is involved with at the time?
Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Do you have redirect, Ms. Mason?
Just briefly, may I stay here, Your Honor? In terms of, I want to ask a couple of questions about Gabby. You indicated that Mr. Dorsey stated he was in favor of her, or supportive of her staying with her aunt. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So what did he state specifically?
As I said earlier, he said that he wanted to support Gabby. He knew that it was going to take time, that she was in a good place with her aunt, and so he was supportive of that.
And you stated with respect to Gabby and her contact with her father, you characterized it as she is going to have to work through his lack of protection and betrayal, correct?
Yes.
And you indicate she's not in a place to do that yet. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Can you put any timeline as to when she would be able to do that?
I can't put any timeline. I would say that it's going to be at least a year, I would think, before she was at a place to be able to address that with Mr. Dorsey. But that's a conjecture.
And then finally, in terms of the questioning by Ms. Burns, Michelle Blair's attorney, there was questions regarding Gabby having contact with her mother.
Yes.
And you indicated that should be left up to Gabby or their caretakers, correct?
Yes.
But you also agree in terms of Gabby's decision-making, she is not a normal 18-year-old at this point, correct?
Yes.
So normal 18-year-old adult decisions are going to be difficult for her to make. Is that fair?
Well,
Or
yes
how
and
would
no.
you- how would
Yes
you
and
say
no.
that?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, Gabby is intelligent. She's able to think through. She is aware of other people. So in some ways, her development is accelerated beyond 18. In other ways, what normal 18-year-olds are doing developmentally is very different than she because of how she's lived, all right? So in terms of how that impacts her decision-making, I think that we can certainly say that she will consult her aunt, she will consult a therapist, she will have support in making any decision, that she's just not going to do this unilaterally. And with the support, as I said earlier, of the caregiver and the therapist, if she decides this is something she needs to do, then I would support that decision wholeheartedly.
I don't have anything further.
Dr. Henry, I have a question. You were asked earlier about your recommendation regarding Mr. Dorsey's parental rights. And you indicated that in one of your reports, well, the report regarding Mr. Dorsey, you had recommended not terminating his rights based on the fact that Gabrielle was 18 and you didn't know if the court could terminate rights.
Yes.
In the child. But you indicated as part of your explanation in that report that Mr. Dorsey's role in her development had potential to increase and that at some point Gabrielle may have a need to reconnect with Mr. Dorsey as time passes.
Yes.
So is your recommendation to terminate Mr. Dorsey's rights based on your assumption that if the court doesn't terminate, that we're considering reuniting the two of them, or are there other risk factors that you're using to recommend termination of Mr. Dorsey's rights?
So, I don't think there are other risk factors, right? I mean, she's 18 years old, and certainly as an adult, she can make the decision of where she wants to live. I think it's the support that the system can provide her, right? And in the report it says, one of the reports, you know, the system she should maintain until she's 21, that the system now can do that, the legal system. I think there's a message in the termination, if that's possible, that says that, yes, father was neglectful, and the court views it this way, and this is how we are legally going to do that. That does not prevent her, obviously, in the future, in a year, to develop a relationship with Mr. Dorsey if she so chooses. So I think it's the message in the termination versus the risks that are involved in that.
Okay, you indicated there are no risk factors. Do you believe that regardless of whether the court terminates Mr. Dorsey's rights or doesn't terminate Mr. Dorsey's rights, that from what you've seen of Gabrielle, she's going to make her own independent decisions
Yes.
on what the relationship is going to be between the two?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Anyone have questions based on the court's questions? Ms. Anderson, Ms. Burns?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, we will break for lunch at this point. Ms. Megas, do you have other witnesses?
I do
for
not.
this interest? You don't?
No.
Okay, so you rest at this
I do
point.
rest.
And Mr. Giancarlo, are you going to have witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then Mr. Devlin, we'll start with you. You have witnesses, correct?
Potentially.
Okay, so we'll start with you then after lunch. And we'll come back at just after 2 o'clock. Thank you.
001623 for a continuing bench trial on original petition for permanent custody. Will all parties please state your name for the record?
Kelly Megacy, Assistant Attorney General on behalf of PHCS.
John Giancarlo from Chapter Guardian Ad Litem.
Adam Devlin, attorney for Alexander Dorsey.
Alexander Dorsey.
Good afternoon, Laura Anderson, T51285, represent the father, Stephen Berry.
Stephen Barrett.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Tracy M. Martin, T63745. I appear as guardian ad litem for Ms. Michelle Blair, who appears today by video link. Please state your name for the record.
Michelle Blair, mother of Gabrielle Mackey, with all this will be.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Janice Over, 35185, counsel on behalf of Ms. Blair.
Okay, everyone can have a seat. Ms. Megacy, we're missing the petitioner.
We are missing the petitioner. I know that she and the foster care worker left the building together. I haven't seen either, and I don't have any phone calls from either. I'm prepared to proceed with testimony.
You don't need her at this point,
Not
correct?
at this point. I do know Ms. Anderson wants to call the foster care worker, but we can proceed and take witnesses out of order or do another response if the court so desires.
Okay, all right. Well, Mr. Devlin, we're up to you now. So do you have witnesses?
Your Honor, we do not have witnesses that reviewing the issues before us with my client who chose not to call it.
Okay. All right, so to you, Ms. Anderson, I know that the protective, the foster care worker is one of your witnesses, correct?
Yes.
And do you have any other witnesses?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay, so then we're at, the only thing we can do is we can move to Mother's case. Ms. Burns, does Mother have any witnesses, or do you prefer to wait until the
I would
foster care
rather,
worker
I'm sorry, I would rather wait and let her do the last revision.
So you have one witness?
Yes, I've released my other witness.
You said you're the mother's your witness.
The mother's my witness.
Okay, so,
Judge, I can make a phone
all right,
call.
we'll take a brief break, see if you can get a hold of her, Ms. Megacy, and see what the situation is. Let's go back on the record then. Ms. Hayden, will you put your name on the record? Okay, so turning to you, Ms. Anderson, your first witness then is the foster care worker.
Yeah, I call Ms. Anthony.
Ms. Anthony, would you come forward so you can forward? You can come forward, she'll swear you.
Do you swear or affirm confirm that the testimony that you're about to give us the truth?
I do.
Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Javita Anthony, J-E-B as in Victor, I-C-A. Last name Anthony, A-N-T-H-O-N-Y.
Ms. Anderson?
Ms. Anthony, with whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I am employed with the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm the foster care specialist.
How long have you been a foster care specialist?
Almost 5 years.
Do you have case responsibility for Gabrielle, Blair, and Matthew Berry?
Yes.
And how long have you been working on the case?
Since March of this year.
So for about 4 months now?
Yes.
And do you arrange for visitation for Mr. Berry and his son Matthew?
Yes.
All right, and when do the visits occur?
The visits usually occur on Wednesdays for an hour.
And do they occur at the agency?
Yes,
And who supervises those visits?
I do.
Has Mr. Berry been visiting with Matthew on a consistent basis?
Yes.
Is Mr. Berry appropriate with Matthew during the visit?
Yes.
Does Mr. Berry ever bring anything for his son Matthew at the visit?
When they first started visiting, he bought him some toys.
Does he bring food to the visit?
No,
Not snacks, candy, nothing?
no.
When Matthew sees Mr. Berry, does he recognize him as his father?
Yes,
Does he call him Dad?
yes.
During the visits, do Mr. Berry and Matthew ever hug, hold hands, anything like that?
At the end of the visit,
They hug goodbye?
yes.
And what kinds of activities and things do Mr. Berry and Matthew do during the visits?
They play on his phone. Matthew likes to play video games.
Okay. Do they talk as well sometimes?
Sometimes.
And do you notice any bonding between Mr. Berry and his son Matthew?
Besides them playing video games, they really don't communicate. Other than that, no.
Would you have wanted to see more communication between Mr. Berry and Matthew?
Yes.
And did you ever bring that up to Mr. Berry, that you'd like them to talk more rather than just be on the phone?
No.
You never redirected him?
No.
But did it appear that Matthew enjoyed visiting with his father?
Yes.
Gabrielle is 18 years old, correct?
Yes.
And do you know what grade level she is?
Currently, she is taking summer classes so she can get to her right grade. She's in 11th right now.
All right. Does she expect to start the fall in 12th grade?
That's still yet to be determined.
But that's why she's taking summer classes now, so she can try to start her senior year in the fall?
Yes.
All right. And do you know if Gabby has any intentions of going to college?
Yes.
But you do know that she wants to?
Yes.
And do you know that from talking with Gabby herself?
Yes.
All right. And has Gabby expressed to you where she'd like to go or apply?
Yes.
Where she told you?
Western Michigan University.
Okay. Is that her main focus on Western Michigan?
No, it's not.
Okay. What other colleges has she told you?
Well, whatever has her major, she would like to be a pediatrician. No, a veterinarian.
A pediatrician or a veterinarian?
No, the veterinarian. She don't want to be a
Oh,
pediatrician.
she wants to be a veterinarian?
Yes.
All right, so she's expressed interest to you at Western Michigan University?
Yes.
Okay. And that, and any other colleges specifically?
She haven't told me, no.
Has she told you whether she wants to wait to go to college after she graduates high school, or if she's ready to go when she's available?
She haven't told me that. No, I don't know.
Now, if Gabrielle goes to Western Michigan University, will she be commuting, or will she be living on campus?
She will probably live it on campus.
So if she lives on campus, she wouldn't be in the home with Matthew on a daily basis. Is that correct?
Correct.
If the court, strike that, the court found one of the grounds for termination was failure to protect by Mr. Berry, and that was from the mother, correct?
Correct.
And the mother, Ms. Blair, will never be in the community again, correct?
Correct.
All right, so that particular threat of harm is no longer, that person's no longer in the community, correct?
Correct.
If the court were to not terminate Mr. Berry's rights today and make Matthew a temporary court ward, you would not be asking that Matthew return to Mr. Berry today, correct?
Correct.
You would want Mr. Berry to be substantially compliant for a period of time with a treatment plan before you would even consider recommending changing places.
If that was the plan, yes.
And Ms. Gordon, the aunt who currently has placement of Matthew, do you know if she's willing to care for Matthew on a temporary basis?
She plans to take care of Matthew on a long-term
I understand, but if she were told that she could have Matthew on a temporary basis, then it might be temporary. Do you know if she would change her mind and ask Matthew to leave her home?
No, she would not.
Okay. So if the court made Matthew a temporary court order as it relates to Mr. Berry, Matthew's placement would not change in the near future. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And if Matthew were made a temporary court order as it relates to Mr. Berry, you would expect Mr. Berry to follow a treatment plan that you've probably seen time and time again, including suitable housing, legal source of income, visiting with the child, parenting classes, counseling, keep in contact with you, and come to court. Is that about some of the typical?
That's the typical treatment plan.
All right. And you haven't been able to give Mr. Berry referrals because this is an initial permanent custody petition, correct?
Correct.
So he hasn't been given the opportunity, or at least a referral, to start counseling or parenting classes, correct?
Correct.
All right, but he has been visiting with Matthew, you said, on a regular basis.
Correct.
And he sees you on a weekly basis because you're there at the visits, correct?
Correct.
And also he's come to court.
Correct.
So if he were offered a treatment plan, he would need to complete the parenting classes, the counseling, get a legal source of income and housing, correct?
Correct.
All right. And Matthew's been out of a parental home for about 4 months now.
Yes.
So if the court were to give Mr. Berry, let's say, maybe 6 months or so to finish a treatment plan, Matthew will not have been out of the home more than a year at that point. Well, whose home is she referring to? We've never been in Father Berry's home, so what out of a parental home, that's what I said.
Out of the mother's home.
Right, out of a parental, any parental home. Right.
Correct.
Has Matthew told you that he likes seeing and visiting with his father?
He doesn't talk about his father to me.
Have you asked him specifically how he feels about his father?
I have asked if he liked visiting with his father.
What does he say?
He said it's okay.
But he comes every week.
Yes.
And Mr. Berry has told you consistently that he would like to plan for Matthew. He doesn't want his rights terminated.
No.
He's told you that he is okay with having his rights terminated?
No, he have not told me that he, want to plan for him.
Okay, but you know he's here today fighting for his parental rights?
Yes, I know he's here.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over. Ms. Burns, questions for Ms. Henry?
Second, just a few. Ms. Anthony, did you have an opportunity to review Dr. Henry's report with regard to Matthew?
Yes.
And you're aware that there's basically a page and a half of recommendations with regard to trying to get Matthew,
Oh, we lost, hold on, we lost the mother for a moment.
can you hear us, Michelle?
Ms. Burns?
Okay. There's about a page and a half of recommendations to try and get Matthew stabilized.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? And you were asked if 6 months will be enough for a typical treatment plan. Do you believe that the page and a half of recommendations of Dr. Henry is a typical treatment plan?
What Dr. Henry wrote, that's not a typical treatment plan. It will take more than 6 months.
Do you have any guesstimate? Would it take more than 12 months?
Yes.
Okay. And you're indicating that you have been in contact with Mr. Berry, not really having a treatment plan because we're still in the trial here. But at this point, he doesn't have a job.
Correct.
He doesn't have housing
Correct.
of his own.
Correct.
Okay. He doesn't have transportation.
Correct.
Okay. And do you believe he's cognizant of the special needs that his son would have?
Objection, Your Honor.
No.
It's speculation.
She can answer it, Your Honor.
You're asking her if she...
If she believes, I'll repeat the question so the court knows exactly what I'm saying. Do you believe that Mr. Berry is cognizant of the developmental delays that his son had?
No.
She can, she can answer if she knows. And your answer was?
No.
Okay.
Now, when you indicate the visits that take place every Wednesday for an hour, are the only thing that they do is play video games?
Most of the time, that's all they do. I know that Miss Gordon, the aunt, she will bring in books and homework for Mr. Berry to help Matthew with.
And does he?
Yes.
Just wait for one moment. All right, you can continue, Ms. Burns.
Thank you, Your Honor. Has, besides saying he doesn't want his rights terminated, has Mr. Berry presented a plan to you of what he believes will be necessary to do for his son?
No.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Megacy?
Judge, I would ask, and obviously it's the court's discretion, but given that it's my burden of proof, I would ask to go last so that way I can be able to respond to all the questions by all the attorneys.
That's fine. Mr. Giancarlo, do you have any questions?
You've indicated that father was appropriate during the visits.
Yes.
Have you had any reports given to you by anyone else that the father has ever acted or said anything inappropriate to the child?
Regarding, no.
Thank you.
Mr. Devlin? No questions. All right, Ms. Megacy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Anthony, you've been the foster care worker on this case since its inception, right?
Correct.
Meaning since the petition was authorized, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you've had an opportunity to speak to see and observe Gabby and Maddie on numerous numerous occasions, is that correct?
Correct.
And to witness the visitations between Mr. Dorsey and Gabby, correct?
Correct.
And to witness the visitations between Mr. Berry and his son Matty, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to speak with both fathers about their children?
A little bit, yes.
What have you spoken with Mr. Berry about in terms of his son?
I informed both parents of what, if they're planning on getting their children the things that they need to get, like a job, housing, things of that sort.
And you've informed both parents, both fathers of that information?
Yes.
And have you gotten any type of response from either father?
Mr. Berry reported that he was starting a job.
When did he report this to you?
Oh, that was probably 2 months ago. But other than that, I haven't received any paperwork or anything stating that he started.
So has either man indicated to you how, if this court decided not to terminate their rights, would parent their children?
No.
Or provide for their children?
No.
When Mr. Berry's attorney was questioning you, she asked you if you ever redirected Mr. Berry during visits. You recall that line of questioning?
Yes.
Okay, so she asked you if you ever redirected him about interacting with his son?
Correct.
Did you think as a father you needed to inform him that he needed to interact with his son?
No.
Did you think that should naturally occur to him?
Yes.
Is that how visits normally went, where he would not interact with Matty?
Other than the phone, they probably once or twice played basketball.
They play basketball?
Yes.
Okay, and this is out of how many visits? Approximately.
Out of all the visits from over since March, I've seen them play basketball maybe 2 times.
Okay, and how often was Mr. Berry visiting with Matty since March?
Once a week.
When was the last time you visited with Matty?
Last week.
And you indicated you actually asked Matty how he liked visits with his father, correct?
Correct.
And he stated it's okay?
Yes.
And then Ms. Anderson stated, well, he still comes to the visits, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Matty's 8 years old?
Correct.
Okay, do you direct his aunt to bring him to visits?
No.
Okay, is it your understanding that Matty has to come to visits?
Yes.
Okay. Have you also spoken, I know there were only questions from Ms. Anderson regarding her client, but in terms of Gabby and her father, have you spoken to Gabby about her feelings concerning her father?
Yes.
What has she stated?
She said that she did not want to visit with Mr. Dorsey, and we stopped visitation with them almost 2 months ago.
Has she spoken to you about her desire to see him at all?
Yes, she said at this time she does not want to see her father.
Has she spoken about what relationship she has or has had with him in the past?
She said she did not have a relationship with him, but he has her phone number and he does not call.
Did Gabby ever make any statements to you regarding the involvement of Mr. Berry in Matty's life?
He just said none of the fathers were ever there.
In terms of your observation, in terms of Mr. Berry and his rights to his son Matty, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is for his rights to be terminated due to Matthew doing so well and have grown both educationally due to his developmental needs with his aunt.
What do you mean due to his developmental needs? Do you have concern about Mr. Berry being able to attend attend to those needs?
Yes, because right now Matthew is in therapy. He has a tutor that comes out to the home, and the aunt is very much involved with the school and the teachers.
And what are your concerns, if any, about Mr. Berry's ability to be involved?
Due to not having transportation and really understanding Matthew's needs, I believe that Matthew will start not learning as fast as he is, and he starts to fall behind again.
And you heard Ms. Anderson state that the court terminated Mr. Berry's rights in part on failure to protect. Is your recommendation that termination should occur based upon that failure to protect?
Yes.
Why do you say so?
Because Mr. Berry has never been there for Matthew, and Matthew doesn't have a bond with his father.
And is that based upon your personal observations of the two interacting?
Yes.
Anything else?
No.
In regards to Gabby, what is your recommendation in terms of termination of her father's rights, Mr. Dorsey?
His rights should be terminated as well. Gabby does not have any bond with her father, and she do not want to have a relationship with him.
And you understand that she is, as of the 23rd, 18 years of age, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and as the worker for the Department of Health and Human Services, despite her age, is that still your recommendation?
Yes.
That termination occur?
Yes.
Okay. What is your recommendation with respect to Michelle Blair's rights to her children?
That Ms. Blair's rights be terminated as well due to the neglect and abuse of the children and the death of her two other children.
Judge, may I have a moment?
Yes.
I actually had another question in terms of Mr. Berry. Is it your understanding that Mr. Berry has other children?
Yes, it was Ms. Blair informed Ms. Hayden and I that he has another son, but he never informed us that he had another son.
You were never informed of this information from Mr. Berry?
Correct.
Did you ask Mr. Berry this, or do you know if he was asked this information?
I know that he was asked by Ms. Hayden if he had another child.
And that information was never disclosed?
Correct.
Correct. Does that child live in state or out of state?
Out of state.
Have you attempted, since you've been on the case, to get that information from Mr. Berry?
No.
Were you at the last court proceeding?
I was, but I was in the hallway.
Do you know if anyone on behalf of your agency attempted to get that information from Mr. Berry?
I believe Ms. Hayden did.
And has information ever been obtained from the Department of Health and Human Services regarding Mr. Berry's other child that lives out of state?
I'm not for sure.
May I have one moment, Your Honor? During either of the father's visits with their children, when Mr. Dorsey was visiting, were they ever late for, or did they miss any of the visits?
Yeah.
Okay, who or how often?
Mr. Berry, due to him having someone to bring him, he has been late a few times. There was one time where we switched the visit due to one of the children having a doctor's appointment, and he got that mixed up, so he missed the visit. And Mr. Dorsey has been late 1 or 2 times.
Okay, And their visits would have been for an hour, correct?
Correct.
And would that explain that visits were only for an hour?
Yes.
Was it explained to them that if they missed any time, that that time could not be made up?
That wasn't explained, but they knew the following week they would have a visit.
I don't have anything further, thank you.
I redirect Ms. Anderson.
May I stand here and step? You indicated that Matthews is doing better, I think in part because of the therapy and the tutoring he's receiving. Is that correct?
Yes, in the school that he's in.
Okay. And if Matthew were eventually placed with his father, his father could put him in therapy and tutoring, couldn't he?
He could.
All right. And then, as far as the transportation issue that my client has, have you ever offered him bus tickets?
Yes, I have.
Okay, did you actually give him bus tickets?
No, because he said he was fine.
And for any visit that was Mr. Late due to no fault of Mr. Berry's, was he ever offered to make a visit?
There was no visit. Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Was there ever a visit that was delayed or didn't occur having nothing to do with Mr. Berry?
No.
Okay. So wasn't that Ms. Gordon changed a date? No.
But it was made up.
That was made up.
It was made up. He just forgot the day that the visit was supposed to take place.
Because it had been changed?
Because it was changed.
All right, but he did get a makeup for that?
No, he didn't.
All right, so do you stand by your statement earlier when I asked you if Mr. Berry consistently visits his son?
He consistently visits his son.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anthony, for the seat. The next witness, Ms. Anderson.
You would ask, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Burns, at this point, what is your case?
Yes, Your Honor. The only witness that I would have, Your Honor, would be my client, Mr. Michelle Blair.
We'll just take a moment recess. We'll go off the record for a moment.